The Cancer new moon plunges us into cardinal water, deep emotional energy that calls us to find safe spaces within our bodies and our environments. It offers a powerful invitation to come home to yourself and raises gentle, necessary questions like, what does safety mean to me? What does protection look like now? You might be feeling more emotional than usual. Dreams may be vivid, intuitive hits stronger. You might feel the pull to get quieter, maybe by turning down social invitations and retreating into your home or inner world. If you've been craving more intimacy or deeper connection with family or loved ones, this moon very much supports that. It also brings healing potential to old family wounds that may still be echoing through your body or decisions, even if you weren't previously aware of those. Remember, this new moon in Cancer isn't just a one-off moment, it's the seed of the whole lunar cycle. So the energy we plant here carries all the way through to the Leo new moon on July 24th. Welcome, kindreds, it's Jessica. I help people who feel spiritually disconnected find rhythm, reconnection and purpose through astrology, guided journaling and divine feminine wisdom. On this channel, I share how I work with the moon, not just for rituals, but as a way of structuring both my practical goals and my magical intentions. When we understand the energy of a lunation really deeply, we can plan more mindfully, respond intuitively and honour what truly matters for that cycle. If you'd like to follow along with me in your own journal or planning practice, I've created a free Cancer New Moon printable. It's linked below and includes a full breakdown of this lunation, journal prompts, horoscopes for all 12 signs, loads of things. So you can really get a handle on what's coming up for you in this month. You'll see me using bits of it throughout this video in my journal. Now, let's talk about this specific Cancer new moon because it's potent. So not only are the sun and moon coming together in Cancer, which is what always happens when we have a new moon, is when the sun and the moon come together, but Jupiter, which is, this is quite a momentous occasion because Jupiter has just moved into Cancer. It only moves into a new sign once a year, so this is a big deal. And Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, so it's a really lovely space for Jupiter to be moving into. And it's sitting so close to the sun and moon for this lunation. It's like, hello, Jupiter. Welcome to Cancer and welcome to the new moon. So it's really, I feel like it's really setting off this whole Jupiter in Cancer cycle for us as well. This is big-hearted, emotionally wise energy. It wants growth. It wants expansion. But in the realm of Cancer, of home, nourishment, safety, and that intangible often feeling of soul deep belonging. The Sun, Moon and Jupiter are also squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So this lunation does bring a bit of tension between what's real and what is fantasy or imagined. It's asking us to dream bigger than we currently are, with that Jupiter, but also to start grounding those dreams with structure with that Saturn square. So, that saying, a goal is just a dream with a deadline. Well, with this cycle, and especially when we look at that Capricorn full moon, which comes mid-month, it wants us to help, us start turning those dreams into actionable plans. But, and this is really important, those goals need to be aligned with your emotional truth. It's really not about pushing harder, achieving more for other people, for the outward effect of success. It's about aligning more honestly with your kind of core self, with your true self. Cancer is a sign that is ruled by the moon, which is very much about our inner selves, our souls even, so we've got to be really honoring that Cancer energy when we're thinking about what we really want to bring into the world. This needs to be truth. It needs to be aligned. So yes, this moon is asking us to step beyond our comfort zone, but never at the expense of our well-being. It's not about the grind, although we might get a little bit of that mid-month when we get that Cancer full moon, but in that Capricorn full moon. But at the moment, we need rest, we need comfort, we need to feel safe while we grow, that's really, really important. In my membership, Moonwise, we meet during the dark moon to set up our journals for the month ahead. And one of the spreads we fill in is about the energy of the cycle ahead. It's just like a space for getting a handle on what this month is all about, because when we know that, we can use that energy. And that's what I'm working on here. I'm using the themes of the Cancer new moon and layering then how it interacts with my personal astrology. I also pull a card from the Weaver's Oracle and a woman rune for some extra guidance as well. And yeah, you know, this spread is definitely not about making things look pretty. I know my handwriting's a bit chaotic. I was like working quickly, just trying to get stuff down. But it is about having a working space in my journal where I can reflect and plan in alignment with the energy of the cycle. So instead of doing a collective reading this time, like I usually do in these new moon videos, I thought I'd take you through how I actually do this, how I look at the energy of the moon cycle and translate that into something practical. You'll see the themes that are coming up for me and how I use them to shape my focus for the coming weeks. I hope it's really useful and supportive for your own practice, whether you're a Moonwise member or just curious about moon journaling in general. This is what I have done. This is what I have so far. So I've just put a few decorational elements on it just to kind of, so it's just not a wall of text basically. But I made some notes about the theme of Cancer, the Cancer new moon in general, some keywords as well, because even though I've been working with these cycles for 20 plus years now, I still find it helpful sometimes, because sometimes even there's a whole list of keywords in the guide, but it's certain ones will shout a bit louder, and it'd be yes, that's the one that I want to be working with for this cycle, rather than something else. So I still find it useful to look at those. I pulled out, for me, the Cancer new moon is falling in my 10th house. So I've got this weird tension between the Cancer, Cancer is all about home, family, our roots, our ancestors, all that kind of stuff. But then for me, it's in the opposite space of my chart, in that 10th house, which is all about our public work, our career, our calling, what it is that we do in the world kind of thing. So I've identified that I was thinking what is the common thread between these things and that ties in with Cancer. And the common thread is spaces, because I have my home, also my body. I'm really thinking about sacred spaces, which is very on point actually, because we are working with the goddess Nematona, who is a Celtic goddess of sacred space, of sacred spaces in nature. Really, that's who we're working with in Moonwise. So it's yes, of course, that's why this stuff is coming up. But I have my, my body. Then I've also got my space of my home, and then the people, my family. I've got ancestors. All of that stuff is spaces and people connections. But then my work is also very much about that as well, because my work is very much about creating sacred spaces. And then when I pulled the woman room that I pulled, we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, it's oh yes, I can see how this stuff is all kind of weaving in together now. But yeah, so much of my work is about creating sacred space. So it makes a lot of sense actually that this new moon is highlighting that for me, and also that Jupiter is there as well, kind of pushing up that area of my work. I've got that draw to safety, to personal safety, and also how does that work as feeling safe in myself and kind of retreating in some ways, when we think of Cancer as being the crab. But then how does that work when it's in my 10th house of where I need to be more visible, I'm on YouTube. You're watching a video on YouTube now where I'm sharing kind of quite personal stuff in a lot of ways, because I'm sharing about my own personal path here. So how do those things cross over? How can I feel safe, I guess, in my workspaces as well? But also, like I said, we do need to be thinking about stepping out of our comfort zones. We do need to be thinking about expansion. So there is that element of stretching out of the comfort zone for me as well in those spaces, which is something I'm aware of that. I've got Jupiter hanging out there for a year now in my 10th house. So I know I'm going to need to grow. And my growth is going to need to be based on what feels safe for my nervous system. I'm not going to be pushing myself so far that I feel dysregulated. I'm going to focus on practices that are going to help me to stay really regulated. Sorry, you might have heard Frodo barking in the background there then. And also then be able to step into calling people in, calling the sisters in other spaces as well, you know, in bigger spaces. So that was the kind of like the crux of what was coming up. Mother are also coming up as well. Like I've been doing a lot of like inner child work. I am a mother to 2 children, so it's like that layer of mother which comes in with Cancer, with that moon energy as well. And also like sort of releasing patterns and things from my own childhood, stuff like that as well. So there's so many layers. It feels like there's a lot of neons of layers, and that's why it's so helpful to do this. I think it's really easy sometimes to just take the moons on face value, and then it's like you're not getting into the depths of it then. And like there's a lot of depth even if you're just looking at what the Cancer moon means. But then when you take the horoscopes as well, you know, you look at your rising sign if you know that, or you can do it with your sun sign as well. Or maybe what would be more pertinent actually for this Cancer new moon is to look at your moon sign, you know, if you know that, and look into that. But you're bringing in more neons, more layers. I also bring in like if there's stuff that's connecting with my personal astrology as well, but I know that is more difficult. Like you do need to know a little bit more astrology to do that. I do teach a course, an astrology course, but that's not open until later on this year. But if you are interested in that, I do have like I send out a newsletter every Moon Day where I send Moon Day Magic Mail with like the astrology insights and some of the lovely things like a goddess message and stuff like that in there. And when I am opening the course again, I'll be letting people know who are on that list. So if you're interested in that, then let me know, you know. But there's lots of other spaces you can learn about astrology online as well. Okay, so that's a lot of layers. That's a lot of stuff. I also then picked out some of the questions that were here in the guide. I didn't do all of them. I chose the ones that were, again, like they were kind of calling me. So these journal prompts. So I did go with like, what emotions are surfacing for me now during this moon? How can I create a more comforting and secure environment in my home and personal life? But I need to remember as well with that I'm also thinking about my public life because it's 10th house for me as well. So it's like kind of applying these questions to both of those aspects. And then in what area of my life do I feel the need for emotional healing and protection? So I wrote a little bit about that as well, because that's really helping me to feel into my personal work, you know, that I've got to do in this moon cycle. So I used those prompts to kind of draw out some more stuff. And like I could have gone much more deeply into those as well. I could have like maybe pulled cards for them as well. Or, you know, you could sit with one prompt for a really long time if you wanted to. But I wanted to leave space here to be able to pull my Weaver card because I do like to do that. You know, I like to pull a Weaver and a rune for each month as well. So we're not quite into the Cancer new moon yet, so I'm still working with the runner, and I've been working with Labrys. But for this new cycle, I'm working with Weaver 48 Shard, Shaman Weaver of Tundra. And this is a Weaver that is very much like she creates the first drum because she goes to the end of the earth with her sisters and they need to reach further out beyond the eyes. And so she creates the drum, the first drum, the taut belly of the drum. And I actually have a drum which I've created myself a few years ago now. I don't know how many years ago, quite a few years ago now. And that's like, from a practical perspective, drumming could be something that I need to bring in this cycle because of that stuff in the story. There was also a lot of stuff about ancestors as well, and like the other world, the kind of mingling of the ancestors with the people now. So you know, that's bringing that Cancer energy in there again, you know, that idea of like ancestral mother line links. So that's something for me to look further into as well. And, you know, I do work more. I keep the book out and I will dig more into the story. I did do a flip through of this deck on my channel as well, so I'll try and remember to link that if you're interested in this deck. It is like a private, not private, what's it called, like a an indie deck created by Carolyn Hillier, who creates amazing stuff, but it's not like a mass produced deck, so it is a bit more expensive, but it's definitely well worth it in my opinion. So yeah, I'll try and link that video. So I find working with one Weaver to be very kind of intense in a way, but also takes me very deep. There's other things like memory, stories, the ice as well. I wonder if ice, you know, like when we're thinking of Cancer and water and like ice, so how is that frozen element, like have I got frozen spaces in me which need to be defrosted now as well, you know? So it's all that kind of stuff. There's lots and lots of layers to unpick there, and my aim with this is not to unpick all the layers necessarily, it's just to identify what those layers are, and then I can start to unravel and unpick them and choose my goals as I move forward. And then the woman rune that I pulled out was the sisters, which, you know, is like two sisters holding hands, and that is a rune of friendship, sisterhood, bonding, promises and vows. And the drum came up in there as well. I wrote, the sister rune calls you to circle with your sisters. It calls you to gather the women, which is basically what my work is. To gather, it calls you to drum, to dance and to sing together, you know, to make ceremony together, which actually I'm going to be doing straight after this now, because we do have a litha, like a summer solstice circle straight after this. If you're watching this like right at the moment when it comes out, you'll be welcome to join us as well. The link for that is also on my, I'll try and remember to put it in the description box as well, but you'll have to be quick. So yes, it's about female relationships, you know, all of this stuff, family, again, sisterhood specifically. But again, I can see how this very much applies to my work as well as my home space. So I'm looking at how those things kind of like weave together. And then here, this is like what I'm tending for the month ahead. So I've taken the ideas from here and I've started to make some notes about some of the things, like the areas of my life that I will be working on now. So I've just written some like general things. I've written like bonds, commitments, home/work, because I've got that homework axis being activated. It also made me think a bit about third spaces as well. You know, people talk a lot about third spaces now. We need to have like a home space, a work space, and then a third space, which for some people is like church, for some people is like the gym, you know. Like I actually work from home. So like my home space and my workspace is the same space. So I like, that's something for me to think about as well, like whether I need to have more spaces, you know, that's something to consider. Also my body as sacred space. We have got Venus in Taurus as well for this new moon, so that's something that I'm paying attention to. My family relationships, including ancestral, calling in the sisters, and I put in brackets like my work here, which is because that's what that is. Meditation, which is something that I have been trying to get back into and haven't successfully done that this year yet. So that's something that maybe, again, like finding the time and space is felt tricky, but then why, you know, I can kind of dig into that. Ritual practice, ceremony, all of those kind of things. Also boundaries, because like Cancer is very much about our like boundaries. And when I was looking at that weaver, like she talks about the edge of the earth, and in the woman runes, Molly talks about how this is a bond from the edge of time, you know. So it seems like edges, boundaries is also something that is being brought forward, which is a very Cancer theme, you know. Thinking the crab, kind of protecting those boundaries. I had some ideas of ritual I'd like to do as well. So I think I am going to do a bath ritual. You know, when we ever have water moons, it can be helpful to lean into that element for your ritual plans. So I'm going to do a bath ritual. I put that I need to incorporate a vow in there, and I think that vow is going to be about to do with myself, you know, to care, a vow of care for myself, something like that, I think is what I'm going to do. Also some protection magic. So I might use like something in the water for protection. Yes, nurture, I put like self-nurture, love, mothering, all that kind of stuff. So this, as you can see, this is not a fully formed ritual. This is my like first ideas for a ritual. I've got plenty of space for what I might plan, you know, for that. And then for some spellcraft, I think I'm going to do some spellcraft specifically for calling in the sisters. So I have been working on a quiz for like identifying where you are on your spiritual path right now, and the goddess who is like basically just trying to grab you to work with you right now. So I thought it would be quite a quick thing to create, but it turns out like if you want to create a really like deep soul, heart aligned quiz, it takes a long time. So I am still working on it. I've got all the questions, I've got all the answers, and I know like where all the answers go and how it's all mapped out. That's not the issue, but I'm also creating some like supporting materials then, so that when people have done the quiz, they all get more like guidance. It's not like, okay, this is it, now off you go kind of thing. I want to be able to support people after they've gone through that, which is a very Cancer a very Cancer mother coded thing to do, isn't it? You know, to make sure it's like, it's okay, I've got you, you know, at the end of the quiz as well. So when I launch the quiz, which I'm hoping will be like in this moon cycle, I was hoping it would be in last moon cycle, but hopefully it really will be done because it's getting closer now. Then I will do some spellcraft to help to put that quiz out in the world so that more people will see it. So like if you see it, I'll definitely share it here on my like my community tab for my channel. I'll also share it in my newsletter as well, you know, in the Moonday Magic Mail. So you know, if you see it, but I also would love it to like ripple out and reach more people as well, because I really feel like we're at this tipping point now. Like there's so much tricky well, not even tricky, like awful stuff going on in the world. And what we need is like the calling in, the drumming, the calling in of the sisters. This is the sort of stuff that we need. I really do feel like this work is really like essential in the full sense of that word now. So yeah, that is the beginnings of, and you can see I've got plenty of space here, because I'm going to then, from this, I'm going to identify like my actual goals and plans for this cycle, the actual, like, flesh out these rituals a little bit more. I sometimes make a whole page then as well of like more details about the ritual that I have done, although not always. It depends. Sometimes if I feel like I will want to maybe repeat the exact one in future. And the same for spellcraft. I don't always make a full detailed note of it, but I do well, especially if it's been very effective, I try and make a note of it then so I can call back on that in future. Yes, so let me know your plans for the Cancer new moon, and let me know also about this type of video. Like, is it more useful to see what I'm doing, or am I kind of like really leading into that self kind of that self Cancer mode with this? And it would be better if I just did a collective reading, which is what I normally do. So let me know in the comments what you think of that. Thank you so much for watching. Warmest blessings, and I will see you very soon.